Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. As Clive has mentioned, I'm a active property investor based down in South Wales, originally from Liverpool, and for about 10 years now, I've been investing in property. Actually, it's longer than that, probably about 20 years, but I've been using data to do so. So really, purpose of my presentation and demonstration to you this evening is to talk to you about why I use data very briefly, and then really get into showing you how I use data to help me with my property investing. Just a quick disclaimer, I don't give financial advice. All the information I give is just a viewpoint of the market and to help you find areas of higher potential. But you've got to seek your own professional advice. You've got to always use a regulated mortgage advisor, and I would always recommend an IFA when you're considering investments. And the most important point there is the last point. And this is so important to everybody that I meet in the industry because a lot of people don't get it or don't realize it. You're responsible for doing your own homework, and you really must trust the data and the facts, not other people's opinion. And I'll be touching on that during the course of the evening session. A bit about me, I'll do this very quickly. I spent about 15 years in retail, and I was using data to forecast for big brands and big industry in the food sector. But at the same time, I was investing in property. So about 20 years ago, I flipped a few properties and made a few pennies doing that. And then after the 2008 crisis, I started building a portfolio of rental property, which is a mixed strategy. So I have HMOs, buy-to-lets or single-let properties, commercial, and some land as well in my portfolio. But as I said a moment ago, I spent 10 years developing market forecasts and trends for myself, for my clients, people that I work with, for my estate agents, because I own an estate agency, and also for this product, the Ultimate Property Dashboard. I've also written a book. If anyone wants a copy, it's on Amazon. I'm not here to push my book this evening. But I am, I suppose, quite well known, or was quite well known, because during the pandemic, and then as we emerged from the pandemic, my property market forecasts, which were published, were accurate, and have been accurate every year up until last year. And one hopes that this year's forecast will also be accurate as well. I'm told I have to put an economist in. I'm not sure I am an economist, but it's not me. It's the data that I gather in my process that gives me this ability. What we're talking about and what I'm going to be demonstrating to you this evening is predominantly insight. So people get confused between data and insight. So insight is using that data or that information to get a deep understanding of something or someone. And I'm from an insights background. I was the European director of wholesale data for the second largest data company in the world at that point for retail data. And I learned the real importance that is placed in all businesses and in all industry on insights, that ability to understand things. And yet in the property market and property industry, we sort of struggle with this a little bit. And this is my observation. There are two elements to information. There's evidence, which is evidence and data, which is sort of the green side, and the red side, which is opinions and experience. So you've got qualitative data. We've got loads of this. So if you go to a networking event or if you talk to an expert, they'll give you their opinions and they'll give you the benefit of their experience. And there's loads of that in the industry. You don't need to search too far to find that qualitative information. But when you look for quantitative information, so for example, if I asked each of you where is the highest yielding location and property type in the UK today, this month, I would imagine that most people would not really have that data to hand or be able to answer that question. That's what I mean by quantitative data, the ability to actually answer the question through evidence and through data. And that's where I live on that right-hand side in the green space. That's what I like to do. And the reason for that is because some of the observations I've noticed, a lot of people will say it's like 2008 when things get quiet, or there's a problem with the property market. It's nothing like 2008 at the moment. People saying that there's a crash happening. I've been hearing that now for 4 years. Guess what? It hasn't happened. It hasn't, and it's not likely to happen soon. And the reason for that is that last word, demand. The key difference between 2008 and today is that we've got sustained demand. And I'll expand on that a bit later. People think interest rates are going to continue to rise, but actually there's pressure to reduce interest rates now as inflation may go close to zero or even negative later this year. People talk about cycles, the 9, 10, 18, 50,000 year cycle. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense, folks, that talk about the cycle. I know a lot of professionals talk about it. It's not true. Different areas and different property types that have more or less demand cycle at different times. So, for example, London in the mid 2010s saw a significant growth and would probably fit that 9-year cycle or 10-year cycle, but the rest of the UK didn't. And as we came out of the 2010s into the 2020s, we actually saw the rest of the UK starting to run away and grow, and London didn't. So it's not true. And please don't base your decisions on things like that, because it just doesn't happen that way. The most important thing for us all to understand and realize is that the market moves at different rates and at different times all over the UK. And your ability to understand that is critically important, because a lot of myth that I often hear is that everywhere works. If you just follow the process, trust this process or this flow chart that I've given you, and you'll make loads of money. It's not true. Everywhere doesn't work. It's the biggest call in the industry. Only 25% of stock at any given moment in time in the UK drives the growth. The remainder of the stock is flat or it's decreasing. Right. So when you say people talk about how properties are really growing or really surging, it's normally only a quarter of the stock that's driving it. The rest isn't. All right. So really important that we understand those fundamentals, because I've put on that chart there, amateurs say this, but actually a lot of professionals say it. Right? But I talk about professional analysis. Professional analysis suggests otherwise. Now, property for me as an observer, as an outsider looking in, when I was building my portfolio, it was a bit like going to the casino. It's just sort of, everyone's a winner, shiny, flashy lights, but no insight, no information, no knowledge about what was going on. And it's really important we get that as property investors, we're not a significant part of the market. We think we are. We think that the property industry and the property market is all about entrepreneurial property investors driving their business forward. But it's not. We're such a small percentage of the market. We're actually, depending on time of year, between 9 and 12% of the market in terms of the transactions that take place. So whatever's happening to us, such as Section 24 changes to the rental market, is not going to have an impact on the overall prices of properties, because we're not big enough and significant enough to affect it. If it was the rental market, I would beg to differ, and absolutely our market we are significant in the rental market, but in the standard sort of property purchase market, we're not. And the final thing that I just wanted to say about all this is there's been loads of talk about interest rates, and nobody ever seems to learn the lesson on interest rates. When we had the Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng mini budget, interest rates shot up quite quickly, and everybody said, right now the market crash is going to happen. And I don't need to tell you that that didn't happen. Right? It's important that everybody gets this, because we are going to go through over the next few years a period of, I would suggest, quite volatile interest rate movement. It'll be up and down. At the moment, it's likely to move down, but it may well move back up again. Lesson to be learned here: more often than not, interest rates respond to property market change, not cause it. They do not cause property markets to change abruptly. Okay, when we had the 2008 financial crash, we dropped interest rates to 1% from around about 5%, and still the property market crashed. Now that's contrary to what we normally think. We would normally think that when interest rates drop, that the housing market will pick up, but it isn't true. It's a big blind spot for a lot of people in the industry. Now, I'm going to show you some data in a moment and show you some ways in which I think that you could overcome some of that noise, some of that opinion that there is in the market. But the most fundamental part of everything that I do, and what I want you to be able to do as an investor, is to understand those high performing locations. Now, I'm not expecting you to move all over the UK. Right? You can pick a specific location in the UK, but there'll be differences in performance within that area. So if you took a city like Liverpool or Manchester, or if you took a county like Devon or Cornwall, there will be different areas with different performances within those locations. Your job as a property investor, in my view, is to find those locations that are performing well right now. And that's quite fun. It's quite important, because most people think that everywhere performs the same, but it doesn't. A large proportion of an area will perform averagely. So if the market's moving up 5%, pretty much everywhere in the city will be growing at 5%. But there'll be some parts of the city or the town or the region which are underperforming, that aren't growing at all, or may even be falling in value. And in that same location, there'll be outliers that perform really well, good performing areas, good performing property types. And this is fundamental, because for me, I built my portfolio off the back of capital appreciation and rent increases or rent appreciation. So I'm interested in buying, maybe adding some value, but also letting the market work really hard to grow the value of my assets, so that I can recycle my money and I can continue to grow. Now, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're putting money or using someone else's money to control assets, I would like to think that those assets will be overperforming, particularly in the short term, to help us. And when it comes to overperformance, here's an example. And this isn't recent. I just put this on the slide, so please don't use it, okay? This is from about a year or so ago. But this is Northamptonshire. And this just really demonstrates the point when it comes to demand across an area. So Northamptonshire is not a heavily populated area, but it does have a number of different postcodes. The dark green bar is demand, and the light green bar is the current performance in terms of house price changes from the land registry. Now look at NN2 on the left-hand side of this chart. You've got 30% demand and you've got 5% growth in prices. Right. But if you look at NN1, which is on the right-hand side of this chart, you've got around about 13% demand and around about 13% price increase. Normally, typical property investor behavior is an area suddenly sees a surge in prices, so they try and buy into that area. That's sometimes works, but quite often it doesn't, because the surge or the increase in price has already happened and the market has begun to slow. And that's precisely what we see in this example in NN1. The market's moved up because we've got 30% price growth, but the demand is low. It's only at 13%. Whereas in NN2, we've got really high demand, 30%. I'll explain demand in a moment, how that scale works, but it's for the purpose of this, it's much higher. And house prices haven't moved yet. Now, for myself, and this is the work that I've been doing for about 10 years, is understanding the relationship between demand and price growth. If the demand is high, the prices will climb. If the demand is low, the prices will stagnate and possibly fall. Okay, so the future for NN1 is price stagnation in this chart, and the future for NN2 is price inflation. So tactically, for me, if I want to see my asset increase in value in the short to medium term, the postcode that I would choose is NN2, not NN1, because the demand is high and the market hasn't moved yet. Prices haven't moved yet. And that often flies in the face of some of the things that we learn about buying below market value or driving value out of a property. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is add on the market, add on the change in the market, because that's really quite powerful and it makes a huge difference. I normally only will target an area that is likely to increase by 10% or more in the near term. And I actually, for the last few years, since as we emerged from COVID, I've been more targeting 20% over 12 months. So if you imagine if you can secure a property portfolio and it goes up in value by 20% over 12 months, it's a heck of a lot more easy to either leverage that property, take money back out, get additional funds, or get additional borrowing against the property. There's all those things that are an option to you, but nobody really gets or understands the importance of this at a very finite level, and understandably so, because it's really hard to work out with data. And that's why I created Ultimate Property Dashboard. And if you think about what happens, you've listed a property, your offer gets accepted, it goes into a chain, it goes through conveyancing, it goes to completion, and then the paperwork's all sent to the land registry, and then the prices are published. That's at least 6 months out of date. So if you're using land registry, or you're reading things like the home buyers reports from some of the major institutions in London, what you're actually getting is the data from 6 months ago. All right, so that's not really going to help you as an investor. What will help you as an investor is this. And by the way, folks, take a screenshot or just try and commit this to memory. This is super important. Right? First indicator of a change in a market is the demand. If there is high demand in a market, so what do I mean by that? I mean a lot of properties are selling and not a lot of properties are getting listed, so that there's an imbalance. You'll see demand increase. That's the first metric that I look for in data. The second is the rental market, so often overlooked. If an area suddenly has an event that causes a demand for housing or property, so for example, a factory opens up and it employs 1,000 people in an area, those 1,000 people will need to be housed, or may need to be housed, particularly if they're moving into that area. We would see that in the rental market first. So if rents start to creep upwards and start to climb, then that's a second indicator or metric for growth. And then the third metric for growth for me as an investor is confidence that estate agents have to increase the prices. So if prices are increasing, then there is a high likelihood that the actual achieved prices are increasing as well. Properties are selling. And the perfect scenario for me is all three of those in a row. But in priority order, demand, then rent increases, then asking price increases. If you are able to do that, if you are able to access that data, you get a very strong indication of where that market, that specific postcode area or that specific property type is going. And people are often surprised by the areas that aren't being looked at, that are hiding in plain sight, that people haven't picked up on yet. If you can get those metrics, then what you'll always see is a little bit later on, like I say, 6 months' time, you'll then see those prices reflect that increase in demand. It works in reverse as well. So if demand is low or is falling and rents aren't doing too well and asking prices are being reduced all of the time, then guess what's going to happen to the market in that area? It's going to go down, right? So all these things are part of the forecasting that we can do in order to help ourselves with property investing. Does that make sense, everybody? Can I just see if you put your thumbs up if you get that? Yeah? Okay. Right, so that data is really hard to access. It is available, and I'm not saying that you need a product like Ultimate Property Dashboard to do it. You can do it manually, okay? So you can gather the data yourselves and do it that way if you choose to do so. But I found that extremely complex, so I invested in my product, which is UPD. And there's a process to this, the way in which I like to use UPD, which is to find hotspot areas, as I've just mentioned, automate my deals with using artificial intelligence. So I put my AI on top of the data to find opportunities. Then I stack up those deals. Then I use a bit of data. I love negotiating with data as well. So if I go and speak to an estate agent or as a property sourcer or whatever it is I'm buying a property off, direct to vendor, I'd never ever ask for money off. I present the facts and ask them if they can adjust their price to reflect the facts. Okay, so that's a critical difference between what I would do and what some people that I work with would do, and what's generally taught in the industry, which is, drive a hard bargain, make super low offers, never make an offer, get the other party to justify why they're more expensive than it should be. That's a much easier process. So that's UPD. That's how we do things. And I've probably done far too much introduction, and I actually need to get into showing you how to do this. Right, I will show you how to access this at the end. So please don't rush to sign up or to register or anything like that, because there's a little bonus at the end for you. Okay, so please just follow the screen for now, and then we'll come to the product.
John, can I just jump in with a question just based on that? A couple of very quick questions.
Yes.
When you did that comment on the 9, 10, 12,000 year cycle thing, are you saying that? Would you agree with something that we were all taught by the course we're on, that over time all areas increase by the same amount? And what it was suggested to us that the home counties follow London, and then the Midlands, and then the Northwest, and then the Northeast, and then is there some sort of pattern, geographical pattern that
No, it's. I'm sorry if I'm contradicting some of the things that you've been
No,
taught.
I'd like to hear it. Yeah.
Okay, so no, another myth. So if anyone can ever present you with some data to prove that, then I'll promise I'll shut up. Right, but there's no statistic. There are no statistics to prove that. The best example I can give of that is in 2014, 2015, London surged in prices and it had about 30% of growth. The rest of the UK did not follow that flow. Similarly, Manchester had a quite significant growth in 2000. I think it was around 2006, 2007, which wasn't replicated elsewhere. If you look wide enough and if you wait long enough, everywhere will increase in value. All right, that's a given. Right, so property investing is great because you put your money in, you're going to make some money, and most areas of the UK, property values have increased at a faster rate than more general inflation. Certainly since the mid to late 1990s, that's been true. The 10-year cycle, it will be true in some parts of the UK, but it won't be true everywhere. So, for example, if I went to Rhondda in South Wales, the old mining valleys, no, not at all. They've doubled and doubled again in 10 years. All right. If I went to Cheshire, no, because they've probably gone up by about 75%. Or 2/3 increase, not 100%. And that idea that, if you look at that 10-year cycle, well, I would just ask people a question: 2008 to 2018, why did we only get 21% growth in property values rather than doubling? The truth is, for the property market to double, it will have to increase by 7% every year for 10 years, and that doesn't happen everywhere in the UK. But it will happen in some parts, and some parts will do way better. And even within cities, you'll know this yourself from where you live. If you've lived in an area for a long time, you'll know that some areas suddenly grow in value and increase quite quickly and outperform the rest of the city, and other areas don't grow at all. And then that might flip around and change later. But that the reason why I think that's so important for us as investors is you need your asset to increase in value in the short to medium term, because that gives you the freedom to get better finance, to perhaps leverage that property to buy more. It gives you the freedom to reduce your overall costs. You maybe will see rent increase. So I believe passionately that if you're going to invest in an asset and it's a six-figure asset, not £10,000 of stock on AJ Bell, it's a significant investment. You've got to make sure that investment goes up in value and it gives you a good dividend. So both those things are important to me as an investor. The increase in the value is the asset appreciation, or the value of that property if we were to sell it. That needs to go up. And the dividend is the rent. That's the profitability of that investment, or the cash flow that you get from it. So the dividend's got to be good as well. So that's a very long answer to your question, Clive. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good answer, and I think it was important because that's clarifying something that arguably a lot of us have believed. And carry on, please.
No problem. So for me, so Ultimate Property Dashboard, you get yourself a login, you register, and you'll generally see your dashboard, and it looks like this. It's a little bit busy, but I'll talk you through very quickly. So along the top, we've got finding investment areas.
Chicken nuggets and curly fries.
Can you mute, please?
I know. Yeah, I know.
Right. Okay. So
I'll solve that. I'm just finding where I do it.
Do you want to know picky bits and crackers?
I'm getting hungry just thinking
this. That's what you're thinking. That's what you're thinking. Some bussy. What's on? What's on?
We'll crack on, Clive. So,
Um,
4 steps: find investment areas.
should we get some snacky bits?
Yeah, you're gonna leave your phone on.
Yeah, I was just
Sorry.
next.
I've just got to unshare, I think.
What
to
do I
see
do with that?
everybody.
Everyone answer.
Bear with me.
He's gone now. He's on mute.
Hold and accept.
I don't know where to see it. Oh yes, I do. I remember now. Sorry, I remember where I see this. He's muting everybody.
Can everyone hear me okay if I just carry on?
Yeah, we're okay now.
Cool. Okay.
We're okay
So,
now. Thank you.
Thanks, Clive.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So 4 steps to this. Keeping it simple, right? Well, first step, if you're investing, you've got to find good investment areas, and you want to be constantly dipping back in and out of there to make sure the investment area you're in is good. Then the second step in UPD is finding investment deals. If you're searching on Rightmove or Zoopla for your deals, then stop, because those products are designed for residential buyers. They're designed for people who are buying a home to live in. They're not designed for us. They don't deliver the insight, and they also don't deliver the information that's required for us to make good investment decisions, in my view. Third step then is to stack a deal. So most of you will probably have a spreadsheet to stack deals. I like to do that digitally. The reason is because spreadsheets can be cumbersome. Pieces of paper can be even more cumbersome, and they tend to get lost, and they tend not to be to hand and difficult to view on your phone when you're out and about. And I'll explain why that's important in a moment. And then 4th step, and I'm not really going to go into too much detail on that during this demo, but you can manage your portfolio using this tool as well. So it's a little bit like a sort of a certificate and a maintenance management tool for your portfolio, because I'm responsible in my portfolio for gas checks, electrical checks, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, all that sort of stuff, and also licensing. So although I instruct an agent to manage my properties, I'm also still liable. So I like to know when those things are due for renewal and give the agent a bit of a chase to make sure that I remain compliant. Right, so 4 steps. So the first step is finding investment areas. So this is my favorite part of the software. So in this view, I can see I've got 2 areas in my research at the moment. So I've got L9 and I've got L4. So they're both in Liverpool, and they're both pre-configured to houses with 2 bedrooms. All right. Now, of course, you can do flats, you can do HMOs with this as well if you choose to do so. So on the left, I can see that what all the other different property types are doing in that area where I've got data for it. So you can see there that 2-bedroom properties in L9, the demand is 30%. So demand is between 0 and 100. 100 is everything that's on the market in that area goes under offer in a month. It's unusual for that to happen unless there's a very small amount of stock, or we have another COVID pandemic and everything gets locked down, and then we come back out and everything sells, all right? But as a general rule of thumb, if you're exceeding 20% demand, it's a good area, okay? If you're under 20%, it's okay. Don't write it off, but if it's under 10, you need to be really careful. Right? The average bumps around between 10 and 15%. So in a given area, in a month, if there's 100 properties available for sale, you could expect 15 of those to go under offer if it was 15%, 20 if it was 20%, and so on. Okay, so 0 to 100 is that scale, and it color codes it. So if it goes below 20, it goes red or slightly pale red. If it's over 20, it's green. So you can see we've got a good performance on demand on 2 and 3 bed properties in that area. We can see the rental market. There's real demand for rent on 2 beds. Remember I said earlier, the first 2 metrics that I look for are good demand and good rent. And you can see the asking prices have actually been falling. So that's interesting. Now, that tells me exercise a bit of caution, check that out. But actually, it's always good to buy at the bottom of the market. Yeah, you don't be buying when the market's up at 9-10% growth. You want to be buying at a point where it's near to 0. And I would argue that's quite close to 0, so no growth. Here's a good example. If you look at 5-bedroom properties in that area, the demand is only 14%. You don't tend to get rental properties with a 5-bed. But look at the asking prices, 11% down. Yeah. So the demand is really driving down prices. So I can get some really good insight from this data. And again, this is all broken out for me in this chart next to it. So I can see demand, growth, asking price changes, asking rent changes, and the yields for that area as well. So that's kind of handy for me to have at a glance, but I can actually pull all that into a report, which I'll show you in a bit. And then this is, for me as the investor, and if I'm doing a buy-to-let investment, this is quite useful data. The average asking price, right? So that's what you'll tend to see on Zoopla and Rightmove when you do a search for prices. What they don't tell you is the range of prices. They will have a range on Zoopla, but it's not a range as we would understand. This is 87.5 is a fixer upper, a bottom of the market, needing work, needs to be renovated. And then we've got a top of the market, which is 137. That's what we'd expect a freshly refurbished or good condition property to be achieving. Then we've got the rent and the yield as well. All right. And then directly underneath that, again, I've got another view of those figures: demand, asking rent, and asking price. They are different because there will be some 2-bed flats in this data on the right. Here I'm specifically looking at houses, so there's a slight difference in the data, well, not a massive one. And that these little sliders will tell me, is a 30% demand good or bad for Liverpool? Right, so some areas, everywhere will be really busy, but or really high demand, but I still want to be buying the best area. So you can see 30% is about average. So there are other parts of Liverpool that are performing better. And I can see that the rent growing at 6.5%, because that's more towards the green, that's one of the highest performing rental growth areas in Liverpool. And you can see that the asking prices are more towards the red. So they're actually underperforming. So you're more likely to get a good deal in that area, or maybe get some money off in that area. Okay. So that's what these reports give to me really quickly. Now, if you want to print one of these off, if you want to use it to negotiate with someone, you want to be clicking on area report, and it gives you a really nice report which you can download as a PDF and print it, which gives a nice little map of the area. You can see it's color coded by price from blue, green, which is lower, and then more yellow, red, which is higher. So you can see in that area for 2-bedroom properties, there's a more expensive property there. There's a middle of the road property there, and I'm sure there's a blue one. I've seen a blue one. There they are down here, and the blue one's down here. So you can see where the cheaper streets are, and you can see where the more expensive places are using this tool or this report. And then you've got the range of prices all in a nice graphical format for you, all the activity, and then some comparables as well. So if you're preparing for a revaluation, you want to get your pack ready for when the RICS valuer comes out to value the property, here's where I go, and I actually give them this when they turn up. Similarly, if the agent is saying that property that's in really poor condition is worth 110,000, you can say no, it's not, because a fixer-upper property is about £87,500. So you've got your armed with data. Now, here's another good thing that I like about this report. It's really hard to ask an estate agent for money off and actually get a positive response from them. Normally it's I don't know, I'll see what I can do. So this report is telling me that although the market is asking on average 110,000, the market is actually selling at 97,000. So that tells me that these are the words that I use with the estate agent. How come I can't have the £13,000 off that everyone else is getting? Tell me why. And it's really hard for an estate agent that isn't in possession of that data to argue with that. So that's how I would negotiate. So I would say, look, I've seen the property and I can see that I'm interested in it, but I don't want to be paying 110. I want to be paying 97, and here's the reason why. So again, negotiation comes into this as well. This is how we can use this data to negotiate. So this report has probably made me more money than anything else really that I've done in property. I've saved tens of thousands of pounds on properties by using this report. And then if they say, oh yeah, but a £80,000 property is an absolute wreck, well, you can click on the yellow dot and view the details, and it'll take me to it, and it'll show me it. And that is not a wreck. That's a nice property. So I can do this on my phone in real time when I'm with them, and then say, look, absolutely not. It's nice inside. It just needs a bit of a paint. And then again, their position in that negotiation is diminished. So in terms of having the power to negotiate, and I learned this when I worked for the likes of Coca-Cola and Heineken and GSK and people like that. They used to come to me as I was a buyer for a while, and they used to come into my office and they would have all of the facts, all the evidence, and I couldn't argue with them. If they said that my prices have to go up, or I've got to pay more, or this product's required, I just had to go with it. But at the moment I started having my own data, I started gathering my own data, I could counter their argument, and their power was diminished. So think about that. We can be the Coca-Cola or the GSK of the world going into an estate agent. They don't have the data, we do, and we can negotiate with that data. Right, so that's a really useful report that I would recommend everybody uses. Another thing that sorry, yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question? That's an L9 report, and obviously L9 is a larger area than L9, and then 3 digits afterwards. So and within that L9 is going to be quite a lot of variance, as you've shown in there. So if you've got an L9, whatever it is, postcode, how can you drill down to that level, or is there not enough data to be able to surface?
Yeah. I mean, my starting point is always this map. So I would use the map. It's not the best example L9 because there's actually not a lot of stock for sale in that area, but you'll often find that there's like an area which has more blue and green, so that's a cheaper area, and you'll get areas which are more yellow and red. But I use this report to one, to negotiate, but two, to actually understand how that area is doing. When you get down to the research we've done and the work that I've done over the years is when you get down to a postcode district, which is those first 3 or 4 digits of the postcode, those areas will tend to behave in the same way. And the main reason for that is confidence of the estate agent. So the estate agents in that area, if they're confident, they will increase values on properties in that area, irrespective of which road they're on. They'll just have different starting price points. Yeah. So definitely use this map, because sometimes you'll have a lovely part of the area on one side of the road, and then you cross over the road,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely awful, and you wouldn't dream of paying the same amount of money.
Yeah, or you could have a council estate one side and then a couple of
You
roads
got-
away. Yeah.
really quite happens quite a lot in a lot of cities that so always do that. But weirdly, even if one side of the road is 100,000, the other side is 200,000, they tend to perform in the same way. So if the market's climate is going to climb at 8%, the poor quality stuff will climb as well as the higher quality stuff, which is contrary to what happens nationally on a sort of national scale. But it tends to be confidence of estate agents, and there's a load of metrics sat underneath that. I have got I do valuations. I have a desktop valuation tool which I'm trying to bring to market with free mortgage companies at the moment. That has the ability to do a street level valuation and also street level performance as well. That is coming, but I need to hold that back until I've launched the desktop valuation tool with the mortgage companies. But to answer your question even further, that is also in the pipeline to be launched into this report as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
No problem. Okay, so if that's one way of doing areas. I mean, you can literally just pump all of your preferred postcodes into this. So you can go a completely different part of the world. You can go to SA10 down in South Wales, and you can put that area in as well. And you can get a steer for different parts of the UK and how they're performing. So you can see in SA10, all the demand is pretty low. It's had its growth, and again, just to show that, you'll be able to see in terms of demand, you can see that it's been bumping along 50%. Had a couple of good months at the start of the year, and then it's gradually just up to 2 beds. That would help, wouldn't it? Zoom is taking over my screen. So if I go switch that to a 2-bed view, you can see we've had steady high demand up until June, but it's dropped back in July. So that could just be a 1-month thing. It could be that we've actually peaked in terms of demand in that area. And again, we can cross-check that against prices. And again, look, you can see that prices have leapt from May, where they were around about 176, 177, all the way up to 210. So agents have put their prices up, demand has dropped. So the market probably can't sustain that price, and prices might fall back again. All right. So again, you can play with this. And it gets really addictive if you really get into it, because you start to really see or learn trends for different areas. But some of us maybe just want to find areas. So there's 2 ways of identifying new areas for you to invest. The first one, one of my favorites is heat map. So do a heat map for the UK. So let's imagine we were looking in the northwest for properties. Let's just look. We'll just do houses for now. We can do HMOs and flats as well, but I'll just do houses to keep it simple. Let's assume I'm looking for 2-bedroom properties. So what's the highest demand postcode area for 2-bedroom properties in the northwest at the moment? Now, the vast majority of the population and the vast majority of property investors would not be able to answer that question if I asked them it. They wouldn't know. They'd say, "Oh, I went to see an estate agent, or this area is doing all right, I think." They're just nonsense words. So I want to know. So I'll run that report, and I now know exactly where the hotspots are. The more red that chart is, the higher the demand is. Okay, so you can see where that demand is. Now, a lot of people get very excited about Liverpool and the Wirral, and they're right to do so. They're doing all right. They're doing averagely. But actually, you've got OL postcodes, M postcodes, and is that BL? Yeah, BL postcodes, where you've got extremely high demand at this moment in time. Those areas are going to increase in value because of that demand. Now, you can drill this report as well. So if I wanted to invest in Manchester, I can drill into the M postcodes, and I now get a new view of the M postcodes, and I can see where that demand looks. Again, it reconfigures, so it doesn't do everywhere red, otherwise you wouldn't be able to work anything out. It bases it on the overall performance of the area, and you can see those areas of highest demand are those in red. I'll just zoom in a bit, because it doesn't work great when I'm doing a screen share. So M4, all the 2-bedroom properties in M4 sold last month. So every available property all of the available property stock on that market went. Right? And people say that the market's really slowed down and it's difficult at the moment. It's not. An interesting fact, actually, but back after the Liz Truss iteration, there's a really interesting article that was published. It's interviewed estate agents and asked for estate agents how they felt the property market was doing. And across the board, all of the research said market's really slow, really difficult. And because of that, then the insight was, well, my property market must crash. Now, what actually happened was the amount of people listing properties dropped off a cliff. Nobody wanted to sell their houses because interest rates had gone up. So a lot of people who may have considered selling their house before chose to stay put to wait and see what happened to interest rates. So you had a very small amount of stock coming onto the market, and we did have a reduction in sales as well, but the reduction in sales was less than the reduction in listings. So actually the property market went up. Now, if those people had looked at demand at that point, they would have seen that even though there's fewer listings and estate agents aren't selling as many properties, the actual percentage of the overall available stock was going up. And that's why demand is such an important metric. So you can use this to do that. Another thing that I really love with this is I can look for high yielding locations as well. So let's just we'll just reset that report and let's go to the northeast this time, and let's look for the highest yielding 2-bedroom houses in the northeast, the best areas for rent for yield, so in turn cash flow. So there's a real strong performance in the DH postcode areas for 2-bed, and then people will then say, oh yeah, but that must be true for everything. So again, you can interrogate that. Is it the same for 3-bedroom properties? So have we got really good performances there? We've got different postcode areas with different performances. So should you buy a 2-bed in one area or a 3-bed in another? The data always tells us exactly what the performance is. All right. So heat mapping for me, I just love, because I can really dive into the data and find out more about it. One final thing, just because it's here and because not many things can do it, you don't often get HMO data. We'll reset this report again. And what we'll do is we'll do an HMO report and we'll look for the cheapest places to buy HMOs in the UK. Yeah. Another question that is often asked but can't be answered because it's all based on opinion. So interestingly, we can zoom right in and we can go all over the UK and see where are the cheapest and the most expensive places for HMOs in the UK. So I think because I'm on a screen share, it's a bit awkward for me to move around. But again, a lot of people will just pick an area blindly because they think that it's going to work, but actually it's quite expensive, or it doesn't yield well enough. Or conversely, you can look for the highest rent performance for HMOs in the UK, with Scotland as well. And again, you can see most areas are pretty similar in terms of rent, but you can drill right into areas and look at like the cheaper place for HMOs and the more expensive places for HMOs in an area. So this is a great way for me to interrogate different locations, different areas, and really get a feel for that area. And if you'd like an area, if you think, actually, do you know what, I think I might find some properties in CA1, I can use this tool to go and find me properties in CA1 now. Unfortunately, there's not for sale in CA1. Maybe that's a good thing. But again, you can extend your radius and search even further if you want to find HMOs. I don't know this area at all, so I probably won't find any. No one would know me. Oh, no, yeah, that's awesome. So you can extend this area research out a bit, and you can find properties that are potential HMOs in that area. So that's really step one, and I haven't gone into the most finite of details, but I can find investment data and investment areas really quickly. The other thing that I can do is that I can then find investment details. Now you can see I've already set one up here. You can see L4. I've actually told the artificial intelligence that L4 is of interest to me, and I want to find multi-unit blocks or blocks of flats in that area. Just out of interest, is anyone looking to do flats or buy blocks of flats? Yeah. So it's, again, that's a super difficult thing to find on the portals. So I use AI to automatically search, and just to prove that, this is set to the last 10 days, there are 5 leads in that area that are multi-unit blocks. So you can see it's finding them. It also lets me know if there's things that are tenanted as well, if they're going to auction and so on. So you can see, yeah, it's very, very quick and easy to find. It doesn't matter where to advertise. So this, you can see we've got Rightmove and Zoopla and On the Market all in one place. So I don't have to log into different portals and do different searches each time. It will find them automatically for me. Now, I know some of you probably heard of products like Property Data and Property Filter. So again, if you're familiar with those products, or you've heard about them, they do a very similar thing. They don't have the data behind them, but they do this. Property Filter just searches on Rightmove. It doesn't search Zoopla or On the Market. So you wouldn't have had this property if you've been using that tool. And then with Property Data, it's a little bit restrictive in terms of its ability to find things. It won't find multi-unit blocks. It'll just find properties that need doing up. But you can get really imaginative with this. So if you were to do a property search, you can see I can search for specific types of deals. So buy-to-let properties. So the things that typically work for buy-to-let are things that need refurbishment, that are for sale cash only, quick sale, auction, repossession, all that sort of stuff. It's quite a big list of things. Then things that are good for flipping. So cash only, needing a major refurbishment, going to auction, listed for a quick sale or potential development. So again, it'll find those. Motivate sellers, again, it'll find motivated sellers that are on the market. HMOs, including potential HMOs. Raj, I think you put your hand up. Sorry, sorry if I missed you before.
No, thanks. I just wonder about off market, because again, we're taught that if something's on a portal, it's retail, But the reality is that lots of properties aren't even on portals, and you're talking about scooping data from all the portals and so on, which is fantastic. But how much of the deals are not even on portals and are off market?
You're right, and if they're not on the market, if you're doing things like leaflet drops, Facebook ads, target marketing campaigns, don't stop doing them. Keep doing them. Right. I can only speak from my own personal experience. My portfolio, I'm just trying to think back of my hand. I think I bought 5 direct to vendor deals in my time. The rest, I've had a lot more direct to vendor engagement. But what I've not done is what I've often found is they've already been on the market. So, yeah, I'm not saying don't do it, but the problem with direct to vendor is direct to vendor at best is about 3% of the property market.
Yeah, I'm not
So
talking
3%.
So I would typically work with sources, and sources that come to me with something that's not on the market. It's a typical sell for a sourcer, isn't it? It's an off-market BMV
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, use them. Absolutely, it's part of the plan. But remember, now I always like to think of the property market as a big cake, and I want the whole cake. I'm greedy, so I can have 3% of the market, which is roughly what will be sort of direct to vendor or not transacted through an agent, and the other 97% is transacted through an agent. There's a far higher likelihood of me getting a deal in the 97% than there is in that 3%. Although that 3% generally is very distressed people. But you'll often find, well, I've found, and what we find with this technology is you can supplement your direct to vendor or your property sourcer engagement with on market deals. I mean, I own an estate agency, and I know that I've got clients in my agency that are listed with me where I know that they'll take 20,000 less than I've listed it for. I know that, and that would and purely because they're desperate to sell. Now I'm not going to release that. My staff wouldn't release that information out there, but they exist. And I've owned several estate agency offices across Wales, and it's always been the case. So I'm not. Please don't take this as an instruction not to go direct to vendor, not to use property sources. You should, but also take it as an instruction to check the on market listings, because you'd be amazed by the deals that you can find. I mean, hopefully I'll find one for us now. There's no promises, but I'll certainly give it a go. So we'll try SA11 because that's an area I'm familiar with. Oh, come on. There we go. So let's go into SA11 and let's do a reasonable radius, do sort of 3 miles around that. And motivated seller. Okay. And let's be really particular. I don't want any 1-bed stuff. I just want 2 and 3 bedroom properties. And I'm not interested in paying more than 175,000 for a property in this area. I'm going to go away and do my section. I can add more filters to it. So there you go. So there you go. 2 properties with motivated. So a motivated seller, anyone selling a property for tenant in situ is always going to be motivated because they're a nightmare to sell. Right. So strategically in my portfolio, I prefer to buy. I actually actively search for tenanted properties because the vast majority of property buyers aren't going to buy that property. Right, so the landlord has put that on the market, and they are never going to sell it unless another potential landlord takes it on, because you've got to buy it with the tenant in it. So motivates that, and it's priced accordingly, £92,000, and it's been on the market for nearly 4 months. So I would immediately be shortlisting that, and I would be phoning the agent up, and I'd be using that area research report to negotiate as low a price as I can get away with. And then I think the second one says it all, really, doesn't it? 165,000. That's been on the market for absolutely ages. It's listed for a quick sale, and it looks like it's potential development. Bryce, I think your hand went up again.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to hog this, but do you have price move data as well? So clearly that's been on for 689 days. Has it always been 165, or
it's always been 165? There'll be an indicator in the top left-hand corner if it's been price reduced. Right. In fact, we can search for price reduced property. So that's again something we can do. So if we tried a different area, so we did CF 31 in this example, and a bigger radius, 5 miles, and let's look for. I'm going to do an advanced filter this time, so I'm going to just look for a lead type, and I'm going to look for stuff that has been what's it called? Price reduced. And I'll also look for stuff where the sales fallen through as well, because that's quite useful. And run a search, and hopefully I'll get some results. There you go. So these are all the ones that have been reduced. So you can see green there, and the top means that the price has been reduced. And then also we've got stuff that needs a refurbishment. So you'll add in any other metrics that are relevant. So these are chain free, which is quite nice to know. there's quite a fair bit that's been reduced in that area. That's why I chose it, because I know that there's quite a fair bit of reducing going on in that area.
But would you know that that first one, that 475, was up for 575 previously, or it could have been up for 480? See what I mean? It's obviously
Yeah. No, we don't display that in the reports now. No, but I think pretty sure if you click on here, you can get a plug-in just to give you the price change. But we don't display it in the report. It would just be information overload. It's good suggestion though. We could certainly look at adding it in if you think it would help.
it's a property filter kind of thing, isn't it? As well, they show that, so I'm just kind of comparing. So yeah.
So again, quite easy for us to do, and quite useful. The other thing that I think is quite unique about what we do is we can search. If I do, is anyone looking to do commercial to residential or land? Just give me a wave or something if you're looking at commercial to resi or any commercial premises. Don't worry if you're not. Yeah, okay, good one too. There we are. So that's also quite difficult to find. So if you're looking for commercial to resi, again, we don't just do, because it's not just Rightmove. If I did the commercial to resi option, again, I can search for potential developments. So shop of uppers is the one that a lot of people are keen on. So our technology will automatically find properties where there's potential for residential development. And again, these are all on Rightmove, but I'm pretty sure if I widen the search, I'll pull in some other portals as well. Just SA1 again, keep it simple. Widen the search. Files. Commercial. And again, I can see there's a huge amount of commercial property in here. And then if I want to filter on a particular type, so if I want to just buy shops of uppers, so I'll just filter in on shops. And then, oops, I think I managed to not save that filter or apply that filter. Put it on my screen while I'm doing a screenshot. Click on apply. So the mouse. And there we go. So some of these are on Rightmove, some of these will be on Reala. They're all on Rightmove, typical South Wales, but there will be other portals where you can find that sort of stuff. So speeding up my search, what I want to be doing, if I've done a search that I'm quite happy with, so again back to property search, let's assume that I'm looking for potential HMOs in SA2. And I know they're a reasonable radius. If I like that search, if that's something that I'm keen to have and get updates on regularly, what I would do is I would save that filter. So I would call that search HMO Swansea, and again I can price target prices and things like that in. But I'm just showing you quickly how I would do that. So put that in, and then back on my dashboard you'll see now I should have SA2 HMO Swansea. All right, Mike, I think you just put your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick one. You're searching for potential HMOs. How is your software identifying that? Because in theory, any property could be an HMO, couldn't it? How is that because that's the wording in the advert on the portal that it searches?
Yeah, so we'll look for definite HMOs. So you can guarantee that every HMO will be in there, but there will also be. Let me see if I can just pull it up on screen. Hopefully there'll be a live one in here somewhere. There we are. So this one here in SA1 is not an HMO. So you can see in the top corner it says if it's actually an HMO, but that's not an HMO. It's just that our technology thinks it could be an HMO. All right, so it wouldn't throw in a 2-bedroom terraced house. It wouldn't throw in a flat, but it will throw in a terraced house that's clearly enormous.
Right. So you've built in a filtering software to flag that up.
We use artificial intelligence, so we use an AI to learn what HMO properties are preferable, and it will automatically search for them. It searches for it looks at the image, but it particularly looks at the description as well. So there may be a bit of an indication it could be an HMO in here somewhere. There we are. It's actually licensed, but the advert says that it's not an HMO. This is listed by Bay Estate agents, and they've just listed it as a terraced house. So our tech has gone right. Let's read the advert and work out what it is. It's read the advert and it's worked out right. Yeah, that's an HMO. Throw it in. And it'll put it in there, and it'll do that. There's a lot of different things that we taught our AI to look for, and then obviously it's learning from what we've originally taught it. So it's not 100%. Okay, nothing's ever 100%, but as you'll see from that short list there, it's pretty reasonable in its ability to find those HMOs. And what I really like about the tech, and I hate wasting time. Time is the biggest drain for me as a property investor. I've got so much on, I don't want to be searching all the portals. I don't want to be searching multiple filters all the time. I just want one consolidated report that tells me all of my leads. So on my dashboard, when I said find investment deals is the second step, you can load this up with 50 different types of searches. And what the software will do is it consolidates it all down into one short list for you every day. So you can see, you can have a look at the stuff that's been listed in the last 24 hours. Nothing matches my criteria, so I haven't missed anything being listed. But in the last 10 days, there have been quite a few. And in the last 30 days, there have been quite a few as well. And you'll also notice just in the top right, I've got this little icon that says enable next to the envelope. I get an email every day at lunchtime to tell me what's been listed. So I get an email that says there has been one commercial to residential property and one buy-to-let or one HMO, which has been listed in the last 24 hours. Click here to view them. So my search, the days of me searching those portals are over. I cannot remember the last time I logged in or started a search on Zoopla or Rightmove or On the Market or Spare Room or LoopNet or any of the others. It all just happens here. And my shortlist is always here. Now, if I like any of these, if I want to develop any of these, then I can do that. So, you know, here's an HMO. Maybe I want to convert that back into a residential property. I know that sounds a bit daft, but in that area, there's actually potential to properties that are non-HMO are worth more than those that are HMO. So I could potentially do something to that. So if I like that property and I want to do something with it, obviously I can click on it and it takes me to wherever it's listed. There it is. But I can put this into my pipeline. Put this into my pipeline of potential leads. Can you see this little house with a plus on it? It's difficult to do when I'm sharing the screen, but it normally pops up, or it'll be on your phone when you're using your phone to do it. So if you click on that icon, what it'll do is it'll add it to all of my deals, my potential deals, and I can stack them at that point. So that's Deal Stacker. And what it does is it scrapes all the information straight out of that advert, so I don't have to write anything down. All I've got to do is pick an address. If I don't know it, I just pick a random one for now. And I need to see it's got all the information out of the advert and just click save. So my routine, when I get up in the morning, I'll look at what properties have been shortlisted, and if I like any of them, I'll just add them to the Deal Stacker, and then take the kids to school, do a few things in the morning. Then around about late morning or lunchtime, I will then look in more detail at this property and try and work out what I want to do with it. So you can see there, it's 3-bed. It's listed incorrectly. It's listed as a bungalow. Typical estate agents. It's not a bungalow. But I can actually get insights into that market as well. So you can see for all property types in that area, the average is 175 and the range is 125 to 200. So it's worth more as a standard house rather than as it is as that HMO. I can look at comparables that may have sold in the area. There's no examples of that because it's listed as a bungalow. But what I can do is I can stack a strategy against that. So maybe I don't know, maybe I do a buy-to-let, or maybe I do a serviced accommodation, given it's in the city centre. So I'll call that my SA property. So I'm going to do SA in it. SA property 1. It's on for 110. I'm going to assume an occupancy rate of, I don't know, for that area, probably about 65% occupancy. Average weekday price for a property in that area, probably about £100. And then at weekend, probably about 200. So there you can see what my net income is likely to be from those nightly rates, and making sure that I cover the rent on a mortgage, so it stresses it at 125% at 8%. And then I can put in all my numbers, right? So I can say I'm going to initially buy it with a 25% deposit. Let's imagine I'm bridging it to buy it, so let's put that in at 11%. And let's put some extra fees in. Let's say, I don't know, I've got an extra fee of £1,000 to pay for whatever reason. Booking fees, card fees, etc. All of the usual stuff for running the SA. And then obviously I'm going to refurbish it. So I'll put a refurbishment value in there of 10. I can also do that line by line if I want to as well. I'll just type 10 in, it's easier. Put a bit in for photography, put a bit in for staging, let's put 500 in for that. And, maybe a one-off cost of 1,000 to get some Matterport, something like that, in to do stuff, and then save it. So I've the software line go away, and you can see on that report I've now got a information on that property. So you know what my income's going to be, what my occupancy rate is, what my return on capital employed is, and I can get a full breakdown of that in there. And if I phone up the estate agents and I make an offer, I can put an offer in of 100 rather than 110 and save that. Oops. And then what you'll notice now is I'm keeping a record of all of the things that I'm doing with every property, and it's taking me seconds. So it's an example, but imagine what happens when you've been doing this for 4 or 5 months and you get a very long list of stacked deals. And as you can see, Yeah, there's quite a few on here. Here's one that I did back in, that was in June. So if I want to view that deal, I can go back to it, even though it's not on the market anymore, or it may not be on the market anymore. I can see its price. I can see what I was going to do to it. So I was going to do a buy, refurb, refinance, buy it at 110, don't know if it'd be worth 175. Because this is a buy, refurb, refinance, if I was to flip it, I would get 57.5 grand of profit. If I was to refinance it, I'd just be leaving 5,500 in on the deal. So I don't work in ROI. I know Pin and some others like to work in ROI. I work on return on capital employed. So I always like to understand what percent of my initial investment comes back out within the first year. And this one will be assuming a purchase, a renovation, and then a refinance. So you can see all of that data is in this report for me. So my money's going to be in on this property for 1 year and 2 months. And that property, apologies for jumping around quite quickly, but you can see there's a lot of stacking of deals that goes on. The reason why I spend a bit more time on this and I emphasize this is I often get, because I'm quite active and I get calls off estate agents, I'll often get an estate agent will phone me up and say, you were interested in that property from a few months back. Are you still interested in it? Because it's come back on the market. Or even better than that, I will be doing my search in the morning, I get my email and I see a property that's come back on the market. And it's one that I've stacked in the past, so I'll immediately get onto that straight away. And you can see, and this has just lifted some examples from my live version of UPD. You can see the status of all of the things that I've been looking at. So a lot of these are pending, so I haven't bought them. So let's imagine a hypothetical scenario that I get a phone call off the estate agent in Neath, and they say, John, you've looked at Riola Avenue in Neath before Christmas. It's come back on the market. Are you interested in it? Now, the last thing in the world that I will do at that point is go, yeah, let me go and find my notes or my details or get my laptop out and let you know what I think. Because the next phone call that they make might be someone who just makes an offer on it and I miss out. But with UPD, this is on my phone. It actually works really nicely on the phone. So just prove that. You can see this is kind of what it looks like on your phone. So you can go down, you can find very quickly on your phone the details if somebody does phone you up. So, and this has happened to me quite a few times. So if I get an agent, they phone up and say, you're still interested in that property that you viewed just before Christmas, I will look at that property and I've immediately got information about what I did to that property. So I stack the deal against it. So this was again going to be a buy, refurb, refinance. I was going to only be leaving £650 in on the deal if I could buy it for 110. All right. So I know straight away I'm on my phone now and I know, right, this is a good deal. And then I think, well, oh God, what did I offer on it? Right. I offered 112 and 114,000 to buy it. I need 50 grand, so have I got the money in the account to actually buy it based on the way I stacked it? And if the answer is yes, then I can say, well, look, my offer was 114. It's obviously sold through. I'm still at 114. And then I can also very quickly look at the latest market insights of that area and know that done up that property is probably worth between the average, which is 177, and the top of the market, which is 215, and that the demand is good in that area, and that the rents are climbing, and the asking prices are about average for the area in terms of growth. So, yeah, again, I'm not looking at a spreadsheet. I'm not asking anyone's opinion. I am in control and I have power over everything that happens when it comes to the properties that I'm shortlisting or looking at. And this process, that step process of finding areas and understanding them, stacking your deals up and identifying them using AI wins you lots and lots of potential leads. And this part of the process can also be done for deals that come to you from a property sourcer. So if you want to manually enter a property, you can do that. So I know many of you have spreadsheets, but you can just put the details in here and then stack it if you want to in exactly the way that I've just shown you. And again, if that's something that you want to move ahead with, brilliant. If it's not, keep it saved in your deal stacker so that if ever it does come back to you, or you think, I'll phone up again in a month's time to see if anyone's bought it, you've got the information all to hand. So that's how I would recommend Ultimate Property Dashboard is use it to do your due diligence and find investment areas. Use it to negotiate as well. Get those reports and not negotiate up as well as down, because I get really frustrated when valuers come out and value my properties, and in the past they would sometimes downvalue them. And the reason given was, there aren't enough comparables, which quite often meant I couldn't find any comparables. So I do that pre-work for them. So what I would do is I would go to the investment area, and I would again just click on area report and get the information for that area. And I'd use that to negotiate, and maybe even go down the bottom of that report and then print off a couple of comparable properties, because again, you can just click on the details bit and it'll show you a comparable property that I can then print. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm running a little over time, but that pretty much concludes the demo of UPD. I am happy to answer any other questions that you may have, but just before I do, I did mention that there was a deal or there was an opportunity for you to get this product at a more competitive rate. By the way, just a reminder, all that data is all included in UPD, and it compares favourably to other products. Most other products that you'll see on the market don't do the whole of the market; they just do Rightmove. And if you're investing somewhere like Wales, maybe in parts of the northeast, a lot of agents don't use Rightmove; they use Zoopla because it's cheaper. Right. So if you want to give it a whirl, if you take the gold subscription, which is what I demonstrated to you today, I'm doing that on special offer, so you can get that for £39.50 rather than £79 a month. You can pay monthly, so you don't need to pay the whole lot all up in one go. You can pay per month for 12 months, and there's also an option for you to just go month by month as well. But the most popular is the 12 months paying monthly. The QR code's on the screen. You get 14 days for free as well. So if you want to just try it before you buy it, that's absolutely fine. You can also, there's a little box you can tick when you sign it, when you register for the first time. It will ask you for your card details for after the 14 days are up. But if you tick the little box, you don't need to put your card details in. You can just try it. If you go for the monthly product, you can cancel it anytime. If you sign up, you'll get a digital copy of my book. And we will not increase the price for 12 months from when you sign up. So there'll be no hidden costs around the corner or anything like that. If you want to give it a whirl, the QR code's on the screen. Just take a screenshot or do a snip of the screen. Or if you're on your phone, you can just tap it. And also, to be honest with you, the URL is so easy to remember. It's upd.ai to get that as well. So if you do that in the next, I think we've got that run for the next 72 hours. So if you sign up, you'll be able to get that deal on the gold subscription and don't need to put your card details in. That is, as I said, pretty much it for me. Some contact details for me there, and open it up. I'll pass it back to Clive and see if there's any questions.
Well, thanks very much, John. Just in case somebody wants to see something, why don't you retain the screen share, or if you can minimize it? I don't know, so we can see people.
I can put it back up if anyone
Okay,
needs to.
all right, okay. Well, let's go for any hands up. Yeah, Raj, please.
Yeah, bye. Sorry, me again.
Don't worry, Raj. The questions are good. And that's
so I'm looking at portfolios. So how can this help me streamline the process of, analyzing 20 properties in an area or whatever it might be, and then using that data to then go back and have a great data-led negotiation with a vendor, rather than I want 30% off and so on, as you said before. So how does it help with portfolios? And so portfolio come to me in a kind of spreadsheet. Is there a way of uploading a CSV file or something rather than entering every single property individually?
Great question.
Yeah.
So in standard product, no, but if you contact me with your portfolio, we can do the analysis. It's an offline. It's not an offline. It's a live tool, but you can't access it from your subscription. So you need to just message us, let us know, and we'll give you. If it's huge, then we'll be a few pounds. We're not asking for a lot. Probably the most we'd ever need is £20 for the processing, and that would be for a portfolio of hundreds, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, if you've got a CSV,
I'm not in the hundreds bracket just yet. But
if you've got a CSV, as long as you've got a CSV, I mean, I could show you how it works now, but you'll just see it running.
Yeah.
You don't really need to see it, but yeah, it's doable. So yeah, just whenever you use our tool, just to show you for a moment. If you're using our tool, let's go on here. On our screen, just at the bottom, everywhere you go, you've got the option to send us a message. So if you've got a portfolio that needs assessment, just drop us a message, and one of our guys will get back in touch with you, and they'll ask you for the spreadsheet, and then we'll upload it. And we have a drag and drop function, but it's not publicly available. You have to request it.
And when you assess it, what typically are you doing, and what's the output? What am I getting back?
You'll get I'll show you. As long as nobody minds. Is that okay if I quickly show what we?
No,
capable of?
not at all. But I presume you get back what you would have got back for a property that was on Zoopla.
So separate to this, I'll be jumping about a bit now, but separate to what you've seen, we have a desktop valuation tool. So if I just very quickly show you that now, you would not be able to access this yourselves. I'm showing you what my team is able to do, and we do this for mortgage companies for their desktop valuations. Just load this up for a second.
An AVM, is it using?
Yes, yeah. So if you had a portfolio, let's say you've got a portfolio to be assessed. Let me see if I've got a recent portfolio. Just got a folder here with one in. I'm sure I've got on Skype somewhere.
Don't tempt Raj, you might buy it.
Right, so here's a portfolio that Ratchet sent me. So let me just drag that, and I'll drop it in there. It's not going to bloody work now. You watch. It's always the way. Let me. I don't think it.
You can't
I
see
don't
your
think it.
screen. Is
Yeah, we can't see it not working just yet.
Oh, sorry. If you can't see it, what's the point of me?
I thought you were. I thought you were just going to show us the end result, but yeah.
Right, so if I just if I get, so I've got is a spreadsheet. Yeah, so it's got postcode, address, and ownership type, what it is, estimated value, how much outstanding finance is on it. Typical. You can put whatever you like in there, but our tech will pick the header that is relevant to the valuation.
Yeah.
So let me save that on my desk. Save that on my downloads. Save as. Browse. No, it's save. Yeah. Okay, so back to our tool. So we should have downloads. There is desktop too, CSV. Cool. So portfolio assessment. Oh, you're coming on slow, yeah. There we go. And I'll drag that in there. So you can see now I've dragged it in. Click on preview. It's got the properties in it. I analyze those properties. Well, I'll need to give it a case number T2. And now it's doing the analysis on those properties for me.
And did you say,
And
John,
that could be 5, 10, 100 properties, and it will give me an analysis of those properties. So you can see it's adjusting the values of those properties according. I mean, that one's a bit out, isn't it? I think it'd be 165 on their sheet, but that's adjusted at 249, 121, 61, 61, and 61. So it's given me a bit of a warning about demand on some of them, but the rest of it is all okay. You can get a lot more detailed, and so in terms of property valuations. Just want to perhaps as an example, if I click on this, you can see there the market value, but also the range of prices. Now, the question that was you mentioned earlier about street level pricing, this report goes to street level and it adjusts the prices according to the street level sales. It adjusts the sale price based upon the recent demand, and you also get a little map as well. So yeah, we could do that for individual properties, or we can do it for a whole portfolio as well. And it's quite clever, this tool, because it'll adjust it by condition. It'll also adjust it by EPC rating. It'll also adjust it if it's a leasehold by the length of lease as well. So it's quite a useful little tool to do that. So yeah, hopefully that explains that I'm not just saying it. The capability's there. It's just a human that's a bit useless at using it.
Yeah,
My team are much better.
that was a kind of
Is-
on the
is-
fly
is-
line. So well done.
Is that the sort of software that brokers and estate agents use? Because I think they can get some. Is it a professional version of Rightmove
Yeah, so
other things?
estate agents will use Zoopla Pro, which is like a light version of a desktop valuation, and then
Yeah.
you have Home Track, which is part of Zoopla. Home Track is absolute market dominance. They are the only provider that's accepted by mortgage companies at the moment. And just as a little secret between us, I'm on a mission to change that. So I want mortgage companies to use my tool, because with Home Track, what you get is you get a value for an average property. So your AVM or your desktop valuation is for an average property, which is ridiculous if you're going for a refinance because you just refurbished property. Your property is better than average, but the AVM tool won't reflect that. Our tool does. Also, with a lot of mortgage companies, they'll do the desktop valuation on the property that you're buying, and then they'll look at the rest of your portfolio, and they'll treat, if you've got a good portfolio that's not highly geared, they should really give you preferential treatment and preferential terms. Some do, some don't, and I can't explain who does and who doesn't. I'm not allowed to. But some will look at the overall portfolio, and our tool, compared to the other desktop tools, will value the whole portfolio as well as part of that process. So I'm on a mission to try and get that in to as many of the sort of specialist lenders, the type of people that we use initially, and then with a view to going and trying to corner or take the fight to Zoopla. But don't tell them, because they might get upset and try and compete against me.
And did you also say that when you're ready in the next few probably months, I think you inferred that we could access some of that intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all I've done 10 years ago, I was panicking because I was frightened of losing money on property. I'm very risk averse. And I took what I did and what I understood in terms of demand planning in retail, because retail, you have to try and, you can't forecast 4 years into the future, but you can forecast 4 to 8 months into the future. And the most important measure was demand. And then the second most important measure then was what you could sell it for and, you know, what sort of pricing you can get around. So I just lifted that and put it for, how do I do this in property? So I've got information about what stuff sold for 6 months ago, but I've got no information about what stuff's going to sell for in 6 months' time. So that was my mission, my life mission at that point, was to work out what causes properties to increase in value and what prevents them from falling in value. What are the things that I should be looking out for? And the main one was demand. And then since then, it's grown into the ability to use what I've just shown you at a very, very, very granular level, so down to street level to do valuations, all the way up to a national level to do a forecast for a whole area. So, yeah, we want to work with you. Your help, if you're working with us and using our technology, we want to make sure you get all of the benefits of what we're doing. One of the main ones in the near future, we hope, is that we'll be able to provide you with certainty on a deal. So if you buy a deal or if you stack a deal, the price that you see in UPD is the value that the mortgage company will work off as well. So there's none of this. I hope the valuation's all right. You just press a button and that someone will go and check to make sure that the property is how you say it is, and if it is, finance arranged. And that's the way it should be, because that's the way it should be for all of us. You should be able to know what your GDV is going to be on your property. I guess you should know whether your property is going to go up or down in that market in the near future. These are all things that we would just want to provide to you. So yeah, Clive, we will share as much as we can with you and everybody's on the call.
Okay.
Quick one for me, if I may, John. Very
Yes,
quickly.
go
So,
ahead.
I don't know if this is a dumb question from a property newbie, but who is this software aimed at? Because I mean, it's brilliant. I love what it's doing, but it almost looks like it's something for somebody who is looking at, you know, dozens of deals a week, and I'm just trying to get my first HMO property off the ground. It looks fabulous for that, but I'll be paying an awful lot of money when I'm probably just spending the next 5 months getting my first property done and sorted and all the rest of it. Does that make
Have
sense?
you already got the property, Mike?
No, I'm still at that. You know, this is what I'm looking at this, thinking this is brilliant for helping me. I'm sort of struggling to pin down some of the details and about how I do my due diligence and find an area and find the properties and all the rest of it. And this is brilliant. It does all of that.
Yeah.
And you might argue, you know, sort of what's it going to be, 480, 500 quid for a year. That's great. If that saves you a load of time and money, that's money well spent. But there's a bit of me also going, yeah, but I'll be paying for loads of months when I'm not actually using the software.
No, of course. Something like that, I'd sign up for a month. Just go for it. We'll do the 14-day trial. If you find a property, great. There are a couple of extra bits. I like to know how my portfolio is doing. So I like to, it's just like doing a P&L for a business. You don't really do much with P&L. You just understand how your business is doing. That's exactly how I am with my portfolio. So to answer the question, it's really easy when you've got 10 or 15 properties to absorb an impact like a bad deal or a big expense. But when you're doing your first one, you've got to make sure it's right. I would argue first 3 or 4. They've got to be good. Once you've got that, then you can afford to be a bit more relaxed. So I think using technology and understanding your market is really important at that point in the journey. Then I'd argue, you know, it's good to know what's going on around you and what's happening with your properties. I would hope that once you've got your first one, you're able to cycle some money back out and grow further. I don't know what your business plan is, so I'm just making a bit of an assumption there that you want to continue to grow. I'd like to think that you'll continue to use it. And one thing that I was really, when I started out in the beginning, I used all my own money. I didn't know any different. So I grew, but I grew slowly, you know, well, not slowly, I suppose. You know, I had one every 4 or 5 months, and I was doing it one at a time. But I very quickly learned how difficult and slow that was. I wish I knew that I could access money and be able to fund more deals. And somebody said to me years ago, I can't remember who it was, like, if the deal's good enough, the money will follow. And that's been my experience over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. Is, you know, if you get good at finding deals and you're good at stacking them, then you can go out to the market and there will be someone or something that will provide you with funding. And one final point on that, I would remind everybody that we're going through political change at the moment, and one of the things that I do expect to see is a relaxation in mortgage rules, particularly around first-time buyers. And if that is to happen, then that may filter across into other mortgage products as we move forward. So, you know, I'm of an age, and I've been doing this long enough to remember the times when you could just go and buy a house and have 100% mortgage. Done. Right. I'm not saying that we'll get back to that point. We may well do in the future. Don't think we'll get there in the short term. But remember, at the moment, we've got 70, 75, 80% LTV products are about the best we can do. but the rest of the market's very likely to move more toward 95 and 100% mortgages for the residential side soon. So for all of us, we want to make sure we've got a nice long list of potential properties. So if we can suddenly start getting 80 or 90% LTV mortgages, suddenly we may be able to afford some of those ones that are in our pipeline. And we want to be pressing the button and going, I'd like to buy that property that I viewed 3 months ago, 4 months ago. So if those sorts of things, I think, lend themselves well to this type of technology, whichever one you choose. If you choose UPD, great. If you choose something else, that's also great too. But don't wait. The worst thing you can do in this market or in any point in the property market is wait and see. I would encourage you to get that deal and then get that next one lined up straight away if you want to expand.
Yeah, I've got a question, but if I may, I'm just going to suggest something to Mike in answer to that, not on the technical side. If you want to buy an HMO, or any of you there here want to buy any property, you've perhaps got to view fine 10, 20, view 10, make 5 offers, get 1. I'm not sure, Mike, how you're thinking that you'll do that in a reasonable time without software like this. And therefore, I think if you're genuinely looking for properties to buy, whether it's one at a time at the moment or not, I think you're going to struggle without the software. And and the cost of it is not just if and when you buy a property using this software, that 500 quid you spent on the software, just peanuts.
Yeah, like I could spend 500 quid in petrol going back and forth looking at properties.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All done that.
Yeah. A couple of very quick questions from me would be, can you hide houses so you never see them again?
Really, I've never been asked that before. No.
Are you not then in the right move circle of keeping? I mean, I suppose what you do to avoid that is always search for properties you do want to see, and therefore you're not seeing properties you don't want to see. But if
I'm fishing basically, Clive. So I get the search tool gives me a smaller, a particular area to fish, and then I pull out what I want. So that's where I take them out of the search and into the deal stacker. That deal stacker list is, I mean, I was pretty ambivalent. I never thought, what's the point of keeping a record of all the things you viewed? It doesn't matter. But I learned that if you got that list and you phone the agent, just make them know every month, phone the agent up. Is that one still on the market? Will you move? You gradually word them down. They do. You eventually go, oh God, you know what? Let me see what I can get for you. Yeah. But whereas if you just left it, nothing would happen.
No, I understand that. But if on average your particular area yields 100 properties, probably an excessive amount, but if it does, let's say, and you look through them and you put 3 or 4 of them into your desirable category,
yeah.
And then a week later you look again at your 100 and it's back up to 100 because there's 4 new properties on the market.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that's possible to filter that out. Yeah, I'll show you.
I don't want to see those other 96 ever again.
Yeah, there's 2 different ways. You can look at just the new listings. So you
new listings is the obvious filter. Yeah, don't go to that.
Yeah, and when you get your email with your shortlist, it'll never give you everything. It'll just say these are the new ones you're going to look at.
Yeah, that's really good. Just when you were talking about high demand makes it, and then and prices increasing. Well, that would obviously, and I'm not saying this is my strategy, but that would make it harder to get discount. And unless what you're saying is, well, at least it gives you, but I think what you're saying is you're searching for the high demand areas, which means it's a good area, and then you've got to make enough offers in that area to get slapped in the face quite often, but to get a bite often enough.
If you've got an area that the demand has suddenly started to increase, I measured this for about 5 years. It was a hell of a laborious process, but there's a lag. So if this typical estate agent, they have a good month, right? They don't increase their prices during the month. By they get to the end of the month, they all get their bonuses. They put it all up on the board. What have we sold? What have we got left? And then they decide like how much the lister will probably decide how much they're going to list 2, 3, 4 bedroom and HMO properties for in future. They have an idea in mind how much more we'll add another 5 grand on, we'll add another 10 grand on. But what they then, for every new listing, they'll put the price up, but they won't increase the price on what's already there. So that's your moment of opportunity to technically buy below market value.
Yes,
so that's why demand is such a great metric for you.
Yeah. I've got no more questions. Has anybody got any more questions? Raj, please.
Yeah, sorry, John. So if we purchase, are we then just left to kind of figure it out ourselves, or is there some kind of tutorials or just
Oh
something?
no, sorry, I should have mentioned that. There's video tutorials for everything on the software. So let me just see if I can quickly show you the screen. Where was I? So if anywhere on the software, you can do a help and resources check. I don't know if you wanted to find out about how to find HMOs on the software, just type HMO and it'll show you how to find leads for properties, and it'll give you a little written breakdown and also a video as well of how to do it, which you can watch. And there's also a transcript as well if you just want to read it rather than watch it. So, and that's true for most. So if you're looking for, I don't know, commercial, there we are. The new dashboard now we can use how you can find commercial properties. So it's pretty simple. But what I would say, don't struggle in silence. If you're really not sure how to do something, click on the message box, type as a message, and one of us will just record it and send it to you. So if you've got something particular, just let us know, and we'll help you with it as best we can. Also, just on the software itself, I'll try and find an example now. You can see these little icons. So you got help video and information for everything on the software. So if you're not sure what it is, you can watch the video. Or you can read about it. That's across the platform. Not for absolutely everything, but most reports and most parts of the software will have a video and a description for what you're doing.
That's excellent, John. Did I remember you have a Facebook page or a community page where
Yeah, sorry,
you
yeah, we do.
talk? Because I think, yeah.
Just actually, do you mind, can I just have 2 minutes? Do you mind, Clive, just to show people something?
I'd love you to, if you're happy to. Yeah.
And this is particularly for Mike. And so I think maybe in Raj. Apologies if I'm wrong, but someone was looking for a direct to vendor. So I do direct to vendor as well. I don't do landlord letters anymore. I don't do leaflets. Okay, I've stopped that. But what I've had success on in the past is using social media. So just very quickly, just as a I don't know, just to get us away from data for a moment, I suppose. So apologies, I'm going on to live Facebook. Okay, so this is typically what I do. So this is a group. You can find these groups all over Facebook, local community groups. This one's called Pontardawe Voice, little town, outskirts of Swansea, place where I invest. Population's about 11,000 in this town, and the membership of this group is 14,000 people. Right. So I want to buy a property in that area. Right. So I could send letters out, I could put posters up, I could drive around aimlessly looking for net curtains and all the other stuff that we've heard people say you should do. Time is too precious to me to be doing stuff like that. What I would do is I would go into this group, join it as a member, as a person, not as a company. I'll just search for my name in this group. That's gone. So here's one I did. This is a bit old now. It's about 5 years old. So you can see I did a weird picture to make everybody stop and look. So I didn't just use text. I used Lego or whatever that is, picture of a house, to make people want to know why is there a Lego house on the feed. And I've just said, as you may know, a number of properties in the area, and I'm looking to purchase more as we have a shortage of good quality rental properties in the area. If anyone's looking to sell their house, think it's sound, please message me. Don't mind about the condition, because I'll update or renovate as required. Right. That didn't cost me anything, and that probably at most took me 5 minutes to create and publish. All right. And I got 17 comments on that post. Let me just see if I can show you the comments. Hopefully. Yeah, there you go. So as you can see, that's in most recent first. Let's just all comments. So I put that post out, and then as you can see, I got a bit spammed. So I got someone doing waste removal. I got Jenna send her house. Now, admittedly, wasn't really my target price, £550,000 for a big old house. But it's good to know, because that could be a below market value flip. Yeah. So at least I'm motivated seller. Yeah. Essentially, this is perfect for me, right? Gemma, my property is on with John Francis and Clay. So that's 2 different estate agents, and she's given me the address. Think about the amount of power that's now given me. I can phone up John Francis or Clay estate agents and go, my friend Gemma is selling their property 96 Farteg Road in Estalvera. I don't want to speak directly to her, but I'm thinking about buying them. Why should I buy it through you rather than the other estate agents? Immediately I've got power. Also, if I've got any questions, I can, as you see, Gemma's not my friend, so I would never normally know. She'd never normally see my posts, but I can message her directly by clicking that message button. No letters, no phone calls, no hassle. I actually bought one of those bought the property offer. Julie copied her friend Jean in, who wasn't even in the group, and said thought of you. Well, imagine the amount of power that gives me. So Julie thinks Jean might be interested in selling to me. So I can click on Jean's name, click on message and ask her, say, Jean, your friend Julie copied me in on a post on Facebook, suggested you might be interested in selling a property. I bought that property. It was a 2-bedroom cottage, and she did a way below market value because she just wanted to. She thought it was really nice, so she'd sell it to me. Then I had Abby. Abby, would you be interested in the Crichton Park area? Absolutely, I live in that area, so of course I'm interested in that area. And as you can see, Abby was not my friend, still isn't my friend, but I could click on message and speak to her. I bought Abby's property in Crichton Park. Tracy Ann, she sent me a link. I didn't buy that property. But Tracy is one of those people in the area that knows everybody. So every time someone's thinking of selling a property, Tracy, because she saw that post, sends me a message and says, this person in the town is thinking of selling. You might want to speak to them. So she's like one of those people that just keeps helping. She just loves to help. And then bear in mind, that's 5 years ago or thereabouts. You can see 4 years later, Stacey actually found my post in that group because she probably searched for property in that group and she came across my post and she asked if I had any properties available. And I've said I've inboxed you, check your spam, please. She said that to me. I got a message and she's actually rented one of my properties that come up for, it became available, it became vacant. So that's one post. This is the importance of thinking differently about how you approach property and about how you use data. This is a data feed, as far as I'm concerned. Where can I get 14,000 people? And how can I speak directly to 14,000 people without spending any money? And the answer was this. And bear in mind that I know I do like getting stuff off the market, getting stuff off the portals, but I also use this. This is my strategy for direct to vendor, and it's exceptionally effective. You'd be amazed if you ask people for help and you just don't try and solve everybody's property problems like everybody else does, and use technology and data to do this sort of stuff. You just get endless opportunity, and it's just because I know a few of you mentioned about going direct to vendor, and also the point about getting the first property. Do a post like this, and you'd be amazed. Go in a student group and ask if anyone knows of any landlords that are looking to sell HMOs, but do it in a student group because all the students know their landlords. So they'll get inundated with potential direct to vendor leads for landlords that are either rubbish, or the property's damaged, or the landlord's told the tenants that he's looking to sell or they're looking to sell. So again, just to help, hopefully that helps the group a little bit. Just another way in which I do stuff.
Very good, brilliant. That I did notice that Tracy earned the right to be your Facebook friend.
Oh, definitely. Tracy's bought me more property leads than I have. I could have dreamt when I wrote that post. She's had a lot of thank you cards and boxes of flowers, a box of chocolates and flowers and things. But yeah, she's brilliant. She actually built my reputation that area. So that area, I don't really need to post anymore because if people just know that I'm an active investor in that area, and they just send it to me. And that's really, I think that's where we all want to get to. But I haven't done. I never go to the estate agents. I don't go in their offices. I don't drive around. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm a bit lazy. I can't be bothered. I just keep it simple. That's the way I am.
Well, look, we've gone on a little bit longer than planned. I suspected we would. And we've had lots of questions, so I think we'll leave it there. Everyone's got John's contact details and the free trial and the offer and everything. And should we just say thank you, unmute, and all do a noiseless clap and just say thanks very much, John.
Thank you, everybody. By the way, great questions, everybody. Brilliant questions.
Okay.
Gold, that, John. Gold. Thank you.
We leave it there. Thank you. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.